What is going on, everybody, and welcome to episode 5 of the Cool Your Jets podcast. Yes, we are already 5 episodes deep into this. I am your less than salty host today, Dzuve. It is bright and early Thursday, April 9th, 2026, and we got a lot to get into. I am recording this prior to my what we call actual job, the job that pays the bills, keeps a roof over my head. So asking yourself, why am I doing that? Well, full transparency, I've tried a couple times to record at night, especially last night after the Sharks-Edmonton game, and quite frankly, I just don't have my fastball. Just don't have my fastball at night. So I am recording this early. As I mentioned in the previous episode, this is going to be the only one I will be doing for the week. So I want to at least get this out there to you guys because there are some really good things to talk about before the weekend. We will pick it up again next week. One more episode will be then before I head off to the bachelor party that I mentioned too. Good old Nashville, Tennessee, baby. Still so hyped. Still so looking forward to it. And we do have my family coming into town today. So got a lot on the agenda, a lot on the plate. Really excited to get this thing going and see what the next couple weeks have in store. So I also, for the viewers out there, got my coffee mug. It's the Dog Father, if you guys can see it. So I'm coffeeed up. I'm ready to go, ready to rock and roll. So speaking of fastballs, by the way, Giants taking 2 out of 3 against the Philadelphia Phillies to end the homestand, which was the momentum we needed before we hit the road to Baltimore. Afterwards, we will be on to Cincinnati. That is my horrible attempt at a Bill Belichick impersonation.
Yeah, well, we're on to Cincinnati.
But yes, they'll have Baltimore and Cincinnati as the next 2 series. So we'll get into the Philly series, and then I'll briefly just go into the expectations against Baltimore specifically, the starting pitchers that are scheduled to go, as they will be playing tomorrow, April 10th, for the weekend ahead. So we also will be getting into some Sharks talk and how the playoff hope seems to be slipping away from their fingertips as they were on primetime television again last night against Edmonton, where Connor McDavid's pretty good at hockey, if anybody's wondering about that. So we'll get into that, get into the Blackhawks game that they played on Monday, and we'll wrap it up with some basketball talk. Very, very, very brief basketball talk with the Lakers game against Oklahoma City. No LeBron, no Luka, no AR equals 1 carry the 3, add the 5, divide by the dividend equal the reciprocal of a 36-point ass whooping. So mostly for the basketball talk, we'll just go into playoff preview, who I think the top teams are going to be coming out of the West will be, who the top teams will coming out of the East will be, my right now finals prediction, and who I think is ultimately going to win the thing. So we got a lot to get into. I'm excited. I hope you guys are as well. I do want to start the episode off with some Atlanta Falcons news. Yes, some Falcons news in April before the draft. And it's not really draft-related news. It is starting right tackle Caleb McGarry announced his retirement at 31 years old yesterday. I don't know why I kind of said it like that. He didn't pass away. He's just retiring. So, he retired. He was our starting right tackle, a big nucleus on the offensive line, huge in our run game. Had some issues at times pass protecting, but his grittiness, his toughness, and what he was able to do when he came into the league with Chris Lindstrom to solidify our right side of the line, he was a big part of that. So he did announce his retirement yesterday. He unfortunately missed all of last season to a knee injury, which he suffered on the very last day of training camp. So we didn't have him at the rest of the season. I was really looking forward to seeing what he was going to be able to do in the Stefanski offense and, how he was going to bounce back, but unfortunately decided, he's going to hang him up. So give him nothing but love and respect for doing that. It's tough to overcome injuries, especially he's suffered quite a bit in his early career too. So he's just on to better things, bigger and better things. So it's unfortunate. The Falcons did go ahead and sign Juwan Taylor to right now fill that right tackle spot. If that name sounds familiar to anybody, Juwan Taylor a couple years ago on the Chiefs-Ravens opening night game, he was the guy that may or may not have got a head start on the plays where he was going ahead and starting his pass sets before the ball was snapped, or he was lining up about 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage and getting called for those penalties. So definitely going to be interesting to see. I have faith in him. He did improve a ton throughout the last couple seasons, so he will be right now penciled into that number one right tackle spot, I'm sure the Falcons will still look to go ahead and get some more depth in that for that position, along with a lot more offensive line pieces in general. But Caleb is a first-round draft pick that we traded back into it. Again, as I mentioned before, him and Chris Lynch were both our first-round picks a few years ago, and they were both a big part of our offensive line to continue to revamp it, bring that toughness, bring that tenacity. So he will be dearly missed, but I know I at least appreciate him doing it prior to the draft, prior to the season starting, prior to training camp, because nothing's worse than you go through a full off season. Pretty much you're getting ready for your season to start and you have a retirement announcement. So again, I wish he was still on the team, but at the same time, him doing it in the time he did it and walking away, at least gives the Falcons time to prepare and maybe redirect their draft going in the next couple weeks. So speaking of the NFL draft, I will get more into that next week because of the fact that for this one we got a lot more to cover. So the draft I will cover more in detail closer to that time. Again, the Falcons still do not have that first round draft pick, so pretty much I'm just going to cover what I believe the first round is going to look like and then what the Falcons I think are going to attack position-wise going forward into the draft. So I made the lovely joke last episode of what are the Raiders going to do now that they signed Kirko Chains? Are they going to trade the number one pick? I was trolling people. The Raiders, I don't think they are going to be trading the number one pick. They're penciling in Mendoza to go ahead and be the future. They're just getting Kirk as that kind of mentor, which I think there's other mentors you could probably go out and get than Kirk Cousins right now, just due to the Falcons situation. But I'm excited. The draft for all of our football junkies out there with the draft coming up. I know everybody's excited. It's kind of the first step in the new year. Obviously, I know free agency's prior to that, but we have the first real step of who we're going to get, who can possibly change the franchise in everything else and more. So that'll be more of next episode with draft coverage. But in the meantime, salute to you, Caleb. Thank you for your time as an Atlanta Falcon. I'm sorry we couldn't get you in the playoffs and see you shine when it matters most, but wish you nothing but the best. Now moving on to the sponsorship, still by nobody. Okay, I know you guys are probably sick of that, but I find joy and entertainment saying that because to me it gives me a chuckle. So hopefully it still gives you guys a chuckle, and I got to plug it in here and there when I can. But in all seriousness, we are going to be moving on to the San Francisco Giants, baby. Yes, the Giants, 2 out of 3 against the Philadelphia Phillies. Almost had a sweep, too, with Game 1, but we'll take the 2 out of 3. As I mentioned on Monday's episode, for the 10 games that they played, they scored a combined whopping 26 total runs, which was the worst in the MLB at that time. They were also shut out grand whopping 3 times in the 10 games. So offense really needed to get going, and boy did they against the Phillies. They scored a combined total of 15 runs in the 3 games against the Phillies. And guess what, people? They got back-to-back shutouts. Yeah, back-to-back shutouts against Philadelphia, which it's finally nice to give somebody a taste of what our medicine has been to start the season. So it was really cool to see how their at-bats were. Again, we'll get into each game individually, but combined to score 15 runs, really only give up 6 in the series with back-to-back shutouts. The starters really, really did well. We had Hauser in Game 1. Robbie Ray pitched one of his best games as a San Francisco Giant in Game 2. And Tyler Mahle had his best start as a San Francisco Giant yesterday for Game 3. So, again, huge momentum swing. As I mentioned, now they are going to be off to Baltimore, and then they will be on to Cincinnati. So I have to try it. I have to try it again. So we'll get right into Game 1. Game 1 was interesting because the highs and lows for it and the ultimate result was a huge, to me, testament of the Giants and what they were going to be doing going forward. The first 4 innings, the Giants were able to get runners on each inning against Painter, which, if you guys have watched any Giants baseball and have heard me talk, getting base runners on and scoring runs is obsolete for the start of their season so far. So for them to at least put pressure on, get some runners on, they scored 4 runs to start with to take the lead 4-0, I thought was a huge step with their offensive approach. They did go ahead and have some really good at-bats too. Luis Arias, unfortunately, became victim to the Oracle Park where you hit a ball that thinks it's going to go out and it still stays in the park. So he had a bases loaded situation, worked a count really well, got a pitch he liked. I thought right off the bat, like, oh, he just hit a grand slam, momentum swing, let's go. Unfortunately, it just doesn't always happen in Oracle Park. So he ended up getting a fly out. It was still a sacrifice where they scored a run, but just right off the bat, I was like, oh, that's gone. So Luis Rice had a great series against Philadelphia. Again, he's been the best bat that we've had. He's consistently worked counts. He's got on base. He's gotten base hits. Again, everybody's talking about his slugging percentage. But again, the guy's gotten base hits and he's getting on. So that's really we needed most. So other than that, we did have Adrian Hauser on the bump. Adrian Hauser had, again, another good start. I know he had some traffic going on in some innings. He did give up 9 total hits in 6 innings pitched. He did give up 4 runs. He had 2 walks and 3 strikeouts. The 4 runs were mostly accustomed to the relief coming into the 7th. But in the 5th inning, he gave up the 2. Still put us in a position to hold the fort down where it's 4-2. I thought throwing him in there in the 7th was going to be a little bit interesting. His pitch count wasn't high, but again, going against the Phillies lineup, if they continue to see a starting pitcher as many times as they have going through a lineup, they're going to figure it out. You have Schwarber, Turner, Harper. You got those guys that are going to figure it out, and that's exactly what happened. Unfortunately, gave up back-to-back hits in the 7th, at which point we brought in Ryan Barecki to go ahead and try to hold the fort down, and that's where the wheels fell off in the 7th inning. So if anything that you guys will hear me talk about baseball in general, my biggest pet peeve with relievers or as a relief pitcher, if you come in and immediately walk people, I will be frustrated, but still not as frustrated if you're giving up hits. If you walk people, though, however, I have little patience with that. So, of course, Ryan Barecki comes in, walks the first batter. We have a bases loaded situation, at which point Bryce Harper singles to score 2. Alex Bohm doubled following that, and then Marsh hit a sacrifice fly. So they scored 4 runs in the 7th, which is all they needed for the rest of the game. Giants just couldn't get that late inning magic to go like we've seen in years past. I'm hoping we get a walk-off here soon enough because Giants walk-off wins are electric, but the bullpen really with Barecki didn't hold it down as well as we'd like. But again, the two of the runs in the 7th were credited to Hauser because he had the runners on first and second. The other 2 were credited to Barecki. So everybody else, when they came in, did well. Killian, Gage, and Tidwell. Tidwell has been our best reliever as a whole, which has been nice. Gage has been too, I would say, but Tidwell's come in. He got his first save, career save with the Susac game against the Mets, which was really cool to see. But overall, I like the fight that they had in Game 1, but that was a Game 2 where you're up 4-0, you blow a lead. The way the season started, how are you going to respond for the rest of the series? That's the biggest thing that I was looking to see. Again, they had better offensive approach. They were making contact. They were getting runners on. They were scoring runs. So how are they going to respond in Game 2? Well, we had our boy Robbie Ray come on, and in Game 2 pitched one of his best games as a San Francisco Giant. I will say that. He pitched 6 2/3 inning. He struck out 7, only gave up 3 hits, and then he believed he had a grand whopping of 2. Let me just fact check myself again, people. 3 walks. So he still pitched a gem. Really, when we needed it most so far this year, he's come in and just done a tremendous job pitching. He's our number 2 right now, workhorse. But I would say so far between him and Webby, he has looked the best. Similar to the Hauser, we threw him in again in the 7th inning, I should say. We threw him in again. We were up 4-0, so very similar to Game 1. He had runners on first and second again. This is where we had 2 outs. If he didn't walk that second batter, I think that he would have obviously stayed in. But with his pitch count as high as it is, we had to bring in a reliever. And who comes trotting out of the bullpen? None other than Ryan Walker. My heart dropped. Straight up it did. Especially because he couldn't find the strike zone. And threw a wild pitch that put both runners in scoring position in second and third. And that's where I'm like, this is deja vu again. And the camera was kind of panning, and you could tell Robbie was a little bit nervous, to say the least, in the dugout. You could tell the fans were on pins and needles for that. And luckily, Walker was able to get out of that inning. We get a ground ball hit to him where he throws the guy out at first. So we get out of the inning unscathed, which was huge. So I'm like, okay, he got the one batter we needed. We're good. He also comes in in the 8th inning and, again, just completely scares everybody. Gives up a hit, but he did pitch a full inning, got a strikeout. And, again, his control issues were there, but he still was able to go ahead and get out of a jam and attack the Phillies lineup in a way that was able to hold the fort down without giving up his infamous Ryan Walker home runs or his base hits. So I will give credit when credit's due. Good job, Ryan Walker. And then we had Keaton Wynn close it out, who still had a really good bounce-back game from his previous one. So from a pitching standpoint, they got their first shutout of the year. Now, the Giants have had 5 total shutouts that they've been a part of this year. The MLB has a grand whopping 26 shutouts up to date. So from opening day till now, April 9th, 2026, for the start of the year, there's been 26 total shutouts. So the Giants have roughly been a part of 20% of them. So that's kind of a wild number to think about. And again, they've been a part of 5 out of their 13 games have resulted in a shutout. Again, we'll get into game 3 afterwards. But when you're in the Giants, if you see them score, great, because they might have an opportunity now to shut a team out. Or if they're not scoring for a bit, they might get shut out. So it's a little bit of a Jekyll and Hyde approach to them. So it was really good to finally just get our first shutout and get our lick back, if you will, based on what the previous games have been for us. So really great pitching performance across the board from Ray, from Brian Walker. Yes, I'll give him some credit. And then Keaton Wynn. Now, the offensive side is the bright spot in the beauty of it, as we had, again, the star of the game, Mr. Daniel Susac, coming in and got his first 2 hits on the board. So he was starting the year at 5 for 5. And the great stat that they showed for Susac after he got his first hit to go 4 for 4 is he became the first Giants player since Willie McCovey to start his debut with 4 hits. So he's the first Giants player to go 4 for 4. And anytime you're in the same conversation as a guy that we named a Cove after, that's pretty special for a young player. So he ended up going 3 for 4 that game. He got his first RBI, where he got a 2 RBI triple in the 8th inning, which was a huge insurance runs for us that we desperately needed. He also scored his first run too. And the cool thing about his approaches and his at-bats was how he was able to get his hits in different count leverages. So the first games that he played, his first 2 hits were on the first pitches, which was pretty cool. He's just like see ball, hit ball. So that was nice. But for these ones, he was down 0-2 in his first at-bat, gets a solid base hit, works the count in the next one to get to a full count. What does he do? Base hit. His third at-bat, he finally made an out after his 6th pitch at-bat, and then in his 4th at-bat, it was 5 pitches for an oppo triple that he had. So he had 19 total pitches he saw in 4 at-bats, and for a young player, again, that's what we wanted to see. You know, with young players coming in, how are you going to be able to respond when you're down in a count? How are you going to respond when they get count leverage, working counts? So really impressive to see his maturity at a young age to be able to go ahead and take those at-bats. Now, I do want to caution Giants Twitter, because everybody's really frustrated with Patrick Bailey and wanting Daniel Susac now to be the full-time catcher and get rid of Bailey and this and that. Like, we all have to cool your jets, because I want you guys to keep that same energy. Just keep that same energy if and when Susac goes in a slump. Now, I'm not saying that to be pessimistic, but I am saying that because it is baseball and it's just going to happen. It happens to the best of everybody where they go into these slumps. So would I love Daniel Susac to be the best hitting catcher of all time and go 3 for 4 every game, or 3 for 3? Of course. What fan wouldn't want that? But the realistic point of view is that that's not It's not going to happen. He's going to go through some slumps, so I just want Giants fans to keep that same energy, to be supportive of him, pick him up when he's down, and, continue to cheer him on when he's up. So he wasn't in the lineup in Game 3. Patrick Bailey got back in the lineup again, and Giants fans are like, how can you possibly do that? And Patrick Bailey has got just as many hits as Susac now, and he's had 30-something at-bats. So, like I said, I get that, but Patrick Bailey is still a defensive, he's a gold glove and catcher, so the defense is still there for him. We are waiting for him to pick back up on the offense. I know it's been more than a year now since he's had some offensive success, but he's still right now he's our starting catcher until the time being. So we should be grateful for, as Giants fans, that we have a luxury to have a backup catcher to be able to go ahead, and when we put him in there, when his name is called, that he's ready, he's prepared, and is going to go out and execute, rather than other catchers that we've had in years past as a backup. So really excited for Susac. He was just incredible to see. Like I said, his coming out party, his family was there again cheering on. We had the infamous video with the kid that was just jumping around and looking like he was fighting for his life, so in the first game that he played. But overall, really great to see him continue to shine, and I'm happy for the 916 legend and the Susac family. So continue to go, and Giants fans, cool your jets when it comes to the catcher position. Just be grateful we have a great backup catcher that we were able to get from the A's. So other great stuff within Game 2 as well from an offensive standpoint. We had Matt Chapman go 3 for 4 with an RBI. We had Willie Leadoff go 2 for 4. Arias had 2 more RBIs. So, yeah, suck it, nerds. Arias has been crushing it. And we did have the unfortunate, I do have to mention, in the third inning where we were up 1-0. Damas was in scoring position, and Chapman hits a base hit, but it was kind of a hard hit, one hopper to Garcia in right field. And our new third base coach, which Giants fans, we have PTSD with third base coaches doing bad decisions. Hector Borg decided to send to Damas, and he was gunned down with a no-doubter. So that kind of was a questionable decision, because we would have had first and third with nobody out. Arias was coming back up, and could have been a huge momentum swing back into the Phillies' favor. Luckily, it wasn't, and we were still able to manufacture 5 more runs on the game. So overall, Game 2, super happy for Robbie Ray to continue to shine as our workhorse. Happy for Daniel Susac to be just an absolute stud and a breath of fresh air for the Giants, and Arias to continue to hit. Chapman had a great game, and Adames too. So great overall game, probably the best game for the Giants, and maybe not the highest runs they've scored, but probably overall the best game as a team that I think they've played up until this point, and that led the momentum into Game 3. So Wednesdays are always going to be early games, because typically teams go ahead and fly out Wednesday to start their series for the weekend, regardless if you're going to play the homestand next game. But for the away teams, if they're traveling again, normally Wednesdays are going to be day games, so they can go ahead and catch those flights. So Game 3 came about, and it was Tyler Mahle's best pitching performance. He gave up the first 2 hits in the inning with Schwarber and Harper, which you're like, okay, how's he going to get out of this? But he only gave up 1 more hit the rest of the game. So he pitched 5 2/3 inning, 3 hits, no runs. He did have trouble with his command, so he did get 4 walks on the game, but he also had 6 strikeouts. So other than the walk situation, he pitched a brilliant game against a Phillies lineup that, again, is really good top to bottom. They just got shut out the previous game. They were going to be hungry to come back and, try to get the series win against us, and he came in and had his best performance. Arias continues to get base hits, but the man, the myth, the legend, and the story of that game was none other than Rafi Big Scoop Devers. Big Scoop is a nickname because he loves ice cream. So we have Big Scoops over there get a 3-run bomb to completely change the momentum and swing in the Giants' favor. The crazy thing about that, before that 3-run home run, is I think it was 2 innings prior to that, there was runners again on first and second. We had nobody out. Devers comes up. We've been waiting for him so far to start the season to get going, hit with runners in scoring position, get the momentum swinging for the Giants, and he unfortunately grounded into a double play, at which point we didn't get any other runs that inning. So whenever he came back again, same situation, first and second, just looking for him to drive the ball. And I was very, very surprised Nola just threw him a 94-mile-an-hour fastball just straight down the middle, and he did not miss it.
Devers hits a high drive. Center field. Out of here. You think that felt good for Rafi Devers?
Goodness gracious. Just a belt-high challenge, and he was laying right.
Hit an absolute tank to center field. Going dead center in Oracle Park is no easy feat, and he was able to go ahead and launch it to get that 3 runs for us here. And that's really all we needed in that instance, but he added on another in the 8th, so he had 4 RBIs in the game for the Giants to win 5-0, and that was good. You could tell the boys were happy for him. The boys were hyped. They were giving him love in the dugout. They were just showing him the, like, let's go. Fans were happy for him, giving him just the most praise. So, again, he was the big trade that we got last year. If you follow baseball, he did not have a good start to last year to begin with the Red Sox. I believe he went like 0 for 23 with like 18 strikeouts to start the year. So he's not normally a guy that starts the season off strong. So again, he started off a lot stronger this year than he had last year for the Red Sox. So having that completely changed momentum. Tony V was talking about that in the press conference, that, you know, that was just big for us as a team, and it was just really cool to see him finally get on the board and for the series. Again, he already hit a home run earlier, but we needed that 3-run, and that was just boost of energy, the juice that we needed to go ahead and solidify that win. So they scored 11 runs in the 2 games that they had, while also shutting the Phillies out both games. I can continue to say that because that's just, to me, a huge testament of what they were able to accomplish and what they were able to do and fight back after Game 1, after the disastrous Mets series. So now they're going to be on to Baltimore. Right now they have that scheduled for Landon Roop will be going Friday, Logan Webb Saturday, and then Hauser will finish it up on Sunday before we're on to Cincinnati. So looking forward to that series. Baltimore's been a little bit up and down this season too. They've really went out and got some bats like Pete Alonso, Taylor Ward. So Jackson Holiday, I'm not sure if he's going to be playing this particular series. He might be waiting for the next one, but Adley, Gunner, so they got a top-to-bottom lineup that is really good. Pitching-wise, they got a couple guys that are going to be good too, but I think that this is a series that we can definitely take. Giants are already 2-3 on the road. This is their first time leaving California, so it will be an adjustment. They're going to be playing on the East Coast, see how the time change does for them, and we'll go and really go out and get the wins that we need to get this thing rolling and get this thing back on track. So they are now 5-8, the Giants are, which is, you know, that's good. It's better than what it was. So really excited for the boys and happy they were able to turn this ship back in the right direction. I will say from a baseball perspective too, so far I would say as far as the most impressive team altogether and the least impressive team I'll briefly get into, I think the most impressive team has been the New York Yankees. I don't think that that's a discussion. They played the Giants. They played the Seattle Mariners. They played the Miami Marlins, and now they've played the A's. So maybe competition-wise, not as strong, but again, just the way they've looked top to bottom. And I think from Yankees fans will tell you, yeah, we always start good. We'll do shitty June and July, somehow win the division, win a series, and then that's it. So Yankees fans have seen this tale as old as time. But for them to start the season the way they have, again, pretty much bringing back the same exact team that they did, I do think that they have looked the best. And again, it's a cliche statement, but they do get Garrett Cole in May, and they also get Carlos Rodon in May. So if they can continue to win and get their 2 workhorses back, Yankees are going to be a very dangerous team. But they have been, to me, the most impressive team so far to start the year. You can make the argument with the Reds. You can make the argument with a number of other teams, but to me, I'm going to put them in the most impressive. The least impressive team, however, a lot of people are going to want to say the Boston Red Sox. Some would even say the Giants, but mostly the Red Sox because of their record. I'm going to go with the Seattle Mariners as the most least impressive team so far, or the team that's been the most disappointing, I will say. A team that had the ALCS last year. They were so close to being able to go to the World Series. A lot of momentum was right, and they end up getting Donovan as another bat in the lineup. But they played Cleveland, they played New York, then they went on the road to the Angels, and then they played the Rangers. So the first 2 series, you think, okay, good teams, see how they can muster it up. but then they lose the series to the Angels, and then they get swept by the Texas Rangers. So they are not starting as hot as most teams would. Their bats have not really come alive as well in those games. I know you can probably go back to the Angels game where Joe Adell had 3 home run robberies, so that kind of looks the shutout that they had looks a little bit deceiving because of what he was able to go ahead and do from a defensive perspective. But I know Mariners fans out there, they want to continue to ride the momentum because of how they haven't been as successful for this century, really, other than the 90s success where they still weren't able to go ahead and get to a World Series appearance. The 2000s have not been better for them, but it was really cool seeing how the playoff atmosphere was in Seattle for the postseason. So really want to see them kind of get back into a groove and have the success, but they've kind of dug themselves in a little bit of a hole, and it's never good when you start your 2 division series going, I believe, 1-5 in the division to start with. So they got some work they're going to do, but again, it's easy to point at the Red Sox being the most disappointing. I just right now it's unfortunate to see what Seattle has kind of started off the season with too. So that's my baseball take for the day. We are going to be moving on now to the San Jose Sharks. Momentum high. This is why I said I wasn't as salty, because the Edmonton game was just an ass whooping, but at the same time, the Chicago game was electric. They rocked the Cali Fins again and got the W. They are 7-2 in the Cali Fins this year, which the crazier stat in that is that they lost the first 2 games in the Cali Fins. So you're kind of looking at like, well, are these jerseys bad luck? Well, they've rattled off 7 wins to go ahead and solidify the 7-2 mark. I love them. Again, maybe because they're winning in them, that it kind of just makes it cool. But anytime the Sharks rock the black sweaters, it's always a little bit of a different feel in the tanks. The Chicago game was, they were down early again. They gave up a power play goal, which I believe now the Sharks within the last 3 games have given up 5 power play goals. So not a stat you want to be a part of, or actually maybe 6 now at this point, because they gave up 2 to Nashville, 1 to Chicago, and then 3. Yeah, they've given up 6 power play goals in the last 3 games, not 5. I apologize. But the main takeaways and the good part of the Chicago game was Will Smith got his 100th career NHL point, which was good. Sherwood got another goal, and Eklund got 2 points, which he had a great breakaway goal, and then he had another great assist to Sherwood.
Time leader with his 114-point season. Sherwood scores! The Sharks have the lead!
And then the Smith goal was unbelievable. It was Celebrini to Graf. Graf had eyes on the back of his head, no look, dime, one-timer, smell you later.
The center, taken back by Celebrini. He'll get control now against Del Mastro. Eklund Celebrini to the net. Graf, Smith, goal!
They did give up a goal late to beat Chicago 3-2, but overall that was, again, a much-needed 2 points we needed to get the momentum into the primetime game against Edmonton. The funny moment in the Sharks game, I will say, was when Nedeljkovic kind of went down and Connor Bedard was really close to the goalie, or was really close to Nedeljkovic, and Macklin Celebrini comes up and gives him like a little bit of a shove, but he kind of puts his arm right in his chest, acting like he was going to do something to fight, and then all the referees just immediately skated there like to stop whatever was going to happen. It's been a running joke between the two of them. They're really good friends, and they chirp each other all the time. There was in Chicago, they were making the joke of like, you want one? And then celebrating like, yeah, let's go. And anytime for hockey players, if they say you want one, it's normally like you want to fight. So they're young kids that just joke around all the time, but it was kind of funny just to see that and how quickly the referees came in to stop whatever shenanigans was about to happen. But overall, again, the Sharks put themselves in a position where at that time they were going to be 2 or 3 points down from Nashville going into yesterday. So if they got the win against Edmonton or got a point against Edmonton, they're still putting themselves right there to go ahead and, push for that playoff spot that I've been saying time and time again. But overall, it was a great game. Nedeljkovic did have one of his best games as a Shark. But again, if anybody's watched Shark games all year, his up and down has been quite – his highs are high and his lows are lows. And we saw the lows again in the Edmonton game, which I will transition to. Some of it, again, gave up 3 power play goals against Edmonton. Like, you keep putting yourselves in a position defensively to be shorthanded, like you're not going to be having much success, and especially against Edmonton when you have Connor McDavid, who again, the guy, I mean, he's a stud. He's just a stud, and watching that guy skate is one of the coolest things that you can watch. So it's different than basketball when you see LeBron James just jumping over everybody to dunk when he was in his early 20s. It's different than seeing Barry Bonds just smoking home runs, going 500-foot home runs. It's different than football where you're seeing the fastest guys are just chucking the ball downfield, and just having those different sports and having their different, special players. Connor McDavid, when he skates on the ice, is just a thing of beauty. How big he is, how fast he is, just how much control he has, the way he's able to change directions, how strong he is with the puck. And the Sharks were just overmatched with him. He had 5 points total after the first 2 periods, which is really all they needed. Going into the third, he had a hat trick and 2 assists. Yeah, what are we going to do on that? So, and then one of the goals that he had, where he pretty much broke through the defense, pushed the guy off with one arm, kept the stick strong, as then he went around Nedeljkovic and scored. So it was a tough game to watch as a fan. That's maybe why I didn't also have my fastball late at last night to be able to record the episode. But at the same time, the Sharks are still in a position. It's just going to be the battle's going to be tough for them to go ahead and get that final spot. They play Anaheim, and then they play Vancouver for the rest of the week. So again, Anaheim's been struggling. They've been having Cutter Gauthier battling some injuries. So they were first in the Pacific before they played the Sharks, and now they've since then dropped to the second spot, and Edmonton is now in the first. And we got to take advantage of that. We have to go ahead and capitalize on them not playing good hockey and be able to finally get some momentum swung back in our way. But overall, happy with the Blackhawks game. Really disappointed with the Edmonton game. The boys are still buzzing. Sherwood got another goal against Edmonton, and Celebrini had started off the game really well with a power play goal for us, which got the momentum swinging in our way. We just couldn't sustain that momentum. So overall, still think that this team has a chance. I'm going to keep saying that until the fat lady sings, if you will. But we'll continue to see how it goes. But I do think that the Will Smith goal in Chicago was just an unbelievable goal because of the connection that Celebrini had to Graf, and Graf literally no-look dime to Smitty for that one time. So now we're going to get into some NBA talk. I mean, there's really not much to go into the Lakers-Thunder game that happened on Tuesday. Got the belt to ass. LeBron James was out. Once he was announced, I looked at the spread to see what Oklahoma City was at, and they had it like a minus 19.5, so pretty much Oklahoma City to win by 20. I think that was way too low. I think that the spread could have been probably about 30, and you would have still hit because they ended up winning by 36. So going into that game, none of our big three were on a losing streak. We now dropped to the 4th spot. The positive I'll take from that is that Rui had a really good game. He went 7 for 10 from the field, shot 70%, which, again, going into playoffs, we're going to need him to have his offensive best performance since we've had him. So to hit him in a spot where he's really the only main focus or focal point on the offensive side, for him to still shoot 70% from the field against Oklahoma City, that's the bright spot that I will go ahead and take from that. And other than that, they scored 87 points total in the game, which was only 5 more points than Oklahoma City scored in the first half of their previous meeting. So again, the offensive struggles are there, but that's to be expected when you don't have your 3 best players on the court. So they do play Golden State tonight. We will see how that game goes, considering Steph Curry's back. The Warriors are kind of got a little bit more momentum going now, but the Lakers are now in the 4th spot, and Denver has jumped them to the 3. They are 3.5 games up from Houston to possibly drop from the 5. I believe that's the lowest they could be, would be the 5 spot. If somehow they lose out and Houston wins out, they could possibly be the 5 seed, but they won't be dropping anything lower than the 5. So again, would I like to see them be the 3rd seed? Yes. Would I be loving them to still maybe be in the 4th seed? Sure. I just know that if they win that series, they do play Oklahoma City in the second round, which, as the last 2 sample sizes have gone, haven't been really good. So, But the overall NBA playoff picture is what I think is going to be the most interesting thing right now that we have got going. Obviously, Oklahoma City and San Antonio are the 1 and 2 seed in the West. I do think, though, Denver, however, Denver's probably going to be the sneakiest team and team that I think can make the finals personally. I mean, Jokic averaging a triple-double again, something that back-to-back seasons of triple-doubles hadn't done since like Russell Westbrook as of late when he was dropping triple-doubles left and right. But the Nuggets, with the playoff experience that this team has, I think is the most dangerous team that can be definitely able to beat Oklahoma City if it comes down to it, with them being in the Western Conference Finals. San Antonio, I'm a little bit hesitant with just because of their playoff inexperience. Granted, I do think that they'll probably obviously get out of the first round with not as much difficulty, but when you're going into that second round, that's when, you're down to the last 4 teams in the West, which you're going to be going up against teams that are going to be experienced, teams that are going to be really good across the board. And if they do play a team like Denver, again, they have Jokic to match up with Wemby. They've got Jamal Murray to go up against Castle and Vessel, and De'Aaron Fox, I know, had a little bit of playoff experience, but overall I think with Denver and how their team is constructed, that they're going to probably be the biggest threat to Oklahoma City. Obviously, the easy chalk answer is Oklahoma City's going to repeat, but I'm going to go a little different this time around and put Denver in the Western Conference to represent for the NBA Finals this particular year. As much as that pains me to say, they just, I think, are clicking at the right time right now, and I think with Jokic playing the way he is, he's definitely a person that's put himself now in MVP conversation if he hasn't already throughout the year. Everybody's probably saying, well, Dylan, he's been in MVP talks. What are you talking about? Well, when I first did the episode of my MVP talk, he was 4th in MVP voting, and he wasn't even close, okay? So that's why I was saying that. But, again, a guy has continued to average a triple-double. You're going to put yourself in the conversation. Unfortunately, the boy Luka is not going to be in that contention anymore. SGA is still the heavy favorite. Wemby's still a part of that. So probably SGA is going to repeat as the MVP itself because of the success for Oklahoma City and what he does. But at the same time, I do think that Wemby or Jokic would be a little bit more deserving for what they've done for their teams. Again, Denver coming out of the Western Conference is my pick as of right now, April 9th. And going into the East. The East is just interesting, man. The East is interesting. We have Detroit Pistons as the 1 seed, solidified it. Detroit basketball. Cade Cunningham did come back yesterday off of injury, and he came back with a double-double. So is Detroit, though, the favorite in the East? I think I'm hesitant to say that just because, again, their playoff inexperience. When you come into a 7-game series, it's a whole different ballgame in the playoffs. So how are they going to respond to adversity? I think they'll get out of the first round again with pretty much ease, but how is they going to adapt into that second round? Or if they're able to get through the second round, how are they going to go into the Eastern Conference Finals? So it's going to be interesting to see the adjustments they make within a series. They are the 1 seed, though, so you got to give them respect. They've turned that franchise around. They continue to grind. Their defense is just unbelievable. They're a gritty team. Cade Cunningham, I think before he got hurt, you could have had him as maybe like the 5th person for MVP conversation, besides Jokic, Luka, Wemby, and SGA. But with his injury, kind of put them a little bit in a bad spot. But Detroit is still, I think, a good threat. I'm just going to be curious to see how they go in a 7-game series, mostly in the second, and if they get into the Eastern Conference Finals, how that goes. You do have – I'm going to save the team that I think that will come out of the East – for last, but again, there's the New York Knicks. Everybody knows the Knicks, right? It's just what Knicks team are you going to get? You're going to have Brunson, what Karl Anthony Towns, how is Mike Brown going to adjust in the playoffs, all that and more. But the Knicks are still a good team. I think that, again, they'll probably get out of the first round with some ease. So how are they going to adapt into that second round? And if they go to the Eastern Conference Finals, luckily, how are they going to, rebound from last year's performance? So Brunson is still a stud. He's a franchise player. He's going to have to carry the team again like he's done the last couple postseasons. But it's really going to fall on Karl Anthony Towns to really step his game up, see how he's going to be able to do mostly on the defensive side. Hopefully he doesn't get into early foul trouble during games because these games matter the most, and you can't afford to have one of your best offensive players continue to be in foul trouble, making silly mistakes. So the Knicks are going to be interesting. I'm not as confident with them to come out of the East, but again, I think that they are right now going to be a team that's going to be at least going to the second round, and we'll see who their matchup would be to get them to the Eastern Conference Finals. Fourth team obviously is going to be the Cleveland Cavaliers. Quite frankly, I don't trust Cleveland. I'm sorry. It's nothing against individual players. Well, maybe one individual player I just don't trust. But Donovan Mitchell, he's going to try to carry the team again. But they went out and got James Harden, which to me, it's like, I don't get. Like, that's my biggest flaws with Cleveland is you got James Harden, who might drop you 30 and 10 in game 1, and then game 6 to close it out is going to give you 8 and 3. So you don't know which James Harden you're going to be able to get in the postseason at any game for that matter. So I can't fully trust Cleveland to go ahead and make a good playoff push and a good playoff run. It wouldn't surprise right now. They are the 4th seed. It wouldn't surprise me if somehow they get upset in the first round that they've done. Again, right now, if the season were to end today, they would be playing Atlanta, who's been a sneaky good team as it's been coming on. So Atlanta's a team that's going to be young, feisty. If they were to play Cleveland in the first round, I don't think that that's a great matchup for Cleveland to start with and could be a possible upset for the Cavs. But again, they are in the 4th spot right now. They still have some great players across the board, but again, it's just going to be you went out and got James Harden. What James Harden you're going to get in the postseason, and I'm not going to be a betting man that you're going to get the good ones. So that's that. But the final team that I think will be coming out of the East, that's probably the biggest threat. Yeah, as painful as this for me to say, is going to be the Boston Celtics. So the fact that Tatum came back from his Achilles injury as quickly as he did, with the unfortunate image of him getting hurt last year and his rehab and how he's attacked it to be able to come back even before the playoffs started to get some of the minutes in to get him going for the postseason was incredible feat in itself. But, I mean, Joe Mazzulla is the best coach in the East. Boston's loaded from top to bottom. The only concern with Boston that I think is, if I have to be nitpicky, is, again, they want to fire off threes. But as we know, that recipe, when you go from a cold streak, what's your other option? What's your other offensive game plan if you're not hitting threes? So I think that this Boston team, again, has the ability to score in different ways, but they're going to continue to fire off the threes. And when they're making them, they're great. And when they're not, they're struggling. It's going to be how they're going to adapt when they are struggling altogether for it. But I definitely think it's going to be Boston coming out of the East, again, with their playoff experience, with what they're able to do, match up in any series, really. Everything is going to be into their favor. So I think it's going to be a Denver Nuggets versus Boston Celtics NBA Finals. And right now, my pick to win the finals is going to be the Denver Nuggets. So I'm going out on a limb. As painful as it is for me to say, I do think that our NBA champions are going to be the Denver Nuggets. Going to be another party in downtown Denver if there really does get down in that instance. But yeah, I mean, we're approaching the NBA playoffs, which is always fun to watch. We're approaching some hockey playoffs, which is going to be great. We got the draft in a couple weeks, which is fantastic, and we've got some good baseball rolling in. So lots and lots of sports going on for us here. And again, a little bit longer of an episode. I did want to make sure that I did my due diligence to cover what I wanted to cover prior to being gone for the rest of the week. So with that being said, I appreciate you guys for joining. Please go ahead, like, subscribe, send some comments. I'm actually curious before I close this out. Please let me know what you guys are liking about the podcast and what you guys want to see more of. I mentioned that before, maybe not individually focused on teams, but once the playoffs I'll kind of cover everything for that. But I'm curious if there's any different segments you guys want me to do, what you kind of want me to implement. I'd be happy to go ahead and try it out for you here. But I do have to get ready for work now. So with that being said, I appreciate you guys for listening, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day and the weekend ahead.